Murray Hunt, the two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden joining the conversation as well. Guys, this one was maybe a little bit more entertaining, a little bit harder fought than we had expected from a Miami team that really rolled over, and we can look at some of the silver linings here, but I want to start on the winning side with the Buffalo Bills. Emery, 31 points on a short week, not their cleanest effort. What did you make of it?
I love that they did what they had to do. They were, 6 out of 11 on third down. There were 3 or 4 inside the red zone, albeit the one red zone that they didn't get was the missed field goal that just went due left by the kicker. But they did exactly what they needed to do. They got out here, got the win. They gave up a little bit more yards rushing than you would expect to Miami, but they ran the football really well. Josh Allen had all day in the pocket, so the offensive line was able to keep him well protected. Receivers did enough in the passing game, enough versus this opponent. So I thought it was a good game for them. Short week, like you mentioned, Joe. And B-Mac, when you look at
out of the window, they're the equivalent to collegiate rivalries, right? You have to throw records and resumes out of the window when you see college football teams face off against their rival. And that's what we saw tonight that made this game a little closer in moments than what we expected. But yet and still, Buffalo scored 30-plus points, and they were missing 2 significant starters. No Ed Oliver, no Matt Milano, but they made the necessary plays that they needed to make to be able to win by double digits.
And let me further detail what I mean by cleanliness, because I don't want to mischaracterize what they're doing offensively right now. 8 consecutive games without a turnover ties the longest streak since 1940. That's pretty darn clean. 25 straight games for the Buffalo Bills where they have not lost the turnover battle. That's pretty darn clean, but it still felt like there was another level to unlock in this one, Max. So I'll ask you this. What did you make of the play calling in the second half when it was still just a one-score game?
You know what? I feel like the offense became a bit stagnant with Buffalo because of they were a bit conservative with their play calls, guys. But also, too, let's give Coach Weaver and his staff some credit as well. They made some nice adjustments because it felt like early on in this ball game, they were going to get ran out of the stadium. And then the Miami Dolphins made significant adjustments to be able to slow down Josh Allen. But that's the unique thing about, divisional matchups, because both teams know each other extremely well. But that's the thing that I'm talking about. You talked about some of the stagnant moments that we saw with Buffalo. They still scored 30-plus points, man. This team is very, very good. And I can tell you this much. When you look at divisional matches, we see week in and week out where you think you know, but you don't know. This was a telling sign about how important divisional games is and how close they can be, because for a moment it felt like Miami was going to steal this game or make it extremely close towards the end.
A part of me felt like the Bills realized early in that game, maybe we don't need to open the entire bag in terms of our play calling and our offense, because they can't stop these 6 or 7 or 8 plays that we're running. We'll just mix them up in different formations and run the same thing. Because you're right, the passing game did get a little bit conservative. They just went to heavy stick routes, heavy mesh concepts, and then after that, they realized, hey man, we can consistently move the football with this series of plays that we're running. It makes no sense to showcase anything that we've worked on or anything that we have new in this ball game. So they did what they need to do to win. That's what I meant earlier when I spoke about that. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't diverse, but it was effective. They executed at a high level. 6 of 11 on third downs. They did, again, to close out the ball game, they got the first down that was needed. They did more than enough. We talked about this watching the game. The offensive line was phenomenal, and Josh Allen is a big reason because of that, because Miami is not going to blitz him, because it'll turn into a 4x1 relay, because he's going to run right behind those DBs. So he had all day to throw, take down the neat route, make it 2nd and 5. Yeah. They played an efficient game.
It just speaks to the standard that we hold the elite teams and quarterbacks to, what we expect to see from them. And I think that there's nothing but boxes checked by Buffalo to this point. The all-world quarterback, the star running back next to him, a pair or now a trio of productive tight ends. You have your possession receivers. I'm still concerned about the ability to stretch the field. That's something that maybe we see bear itself out or develop throughout this season. On the Miami side, Emery, what do you take from this effort? Because it's an unforgivable mistake by your quarterback, who's the highest paid player on the team and one of the highest paid in the league. And it's an unforgivable mistake by your defensive captain, who roughs the punter to offer a fresh set of downs that leads to what was the eventual game-winning score.
This was the good, and NFL is juxtaposed to Buffalo's 5 TFL, so that says the defense wasn't making plays behind the line of scrimmage. And oh, by the way, the roughing the punter that you mentioned, that kind of kept Buffalo on the field and gave them that go-ahead score. So they did a lot of good. I like that they came out and fought hard for their head coach. They came out, drove down the field early. They ran the football rather well. They made some crucial plays on third downs. They scored inside the red zone. They were competing all the way to the end, but it's those little things that separate the good teams from the bad teams. And right now, that's why Buffalo's sitting there undefeated and Miami's sitting there winless.
Well, let me reference the late, great Bobby Bowden, as I do weekly with you guys. Before you learn how to win, you have to learn how not to lose. And that's the issue with the Miami Dolphins. Because, yes, we saw a more competitive effort from the Miami Dolphins tonight. But to your point, key situational moments, miscues, led to them losing this ball game. In an area of the game where your defense found their stride, getting significant stops on Josh Allen, your captain came up with a huge penalty in roughing the punter. Roughing the punter. Mind you, they were in punt safe. And for all you that are watching us on CBS HQ, you know when you're in punt safe, if you're familiar with the game of football, you're not supposed to rush because that is the starting defensive unit that's out there. So why did he rush? I'm not sure. But 9 times out of 10, when you see coaches on the sideline doing this, they're signaling to the defense, we're in punt safe. We're just going to fair catch the football. We have no return set up. So that's the first miscue. That led to an extra possession for Josh Allen to go up again a score with that touchdown. And then to your point, Emery, you still had life. You're driving. Tua was very, very efficient, especially in the second half, and just ironed down the area he was throwing the football to, and Bernard just followed his eyes. That's why they tell quarterbacks all the time to look away, come backside. But what did Tua do? He got lazy with his eyes and stared down one area of the football field. Bernard followed his eyes, bam, game-winning interception. They have learned how to lose ball games. And they have to get that out of their system before they become a winning, competitive NFL team. And unfortunately, that's why they're in this 0-3 slump right now.
I'm glad you ended with that point, D-Mac, because that's going to be the point I'm going to make, where a play doesn't care who makes it, it just wants to be made. Terrell Bernard made the play, and how many dropped interceptions we saw tonight from Miami? About 3. And so that's the difference, man. Make those plays. You have a chance to win the game. The good teams find a way to tie up those loose ends, and the Bills made all of the plays that was necessary to make to win this ball game, on top of what they did offensively in terms of execution.
Miami, their first 0-3 start since 2019. When they started that season, 0-7. The 0-3 fate for playoff teams, not all that great. Only a handful have made it in the history of the NFL. Maybe Miami feels like they found something that they can latch onto in this game. Got to execute bigger in the biggest moments. But Emery, what role does Miami serve now? Because coming into this matchup, there were questions of culture and leadership. Do we quell some of those at least?
I think we quell some of those, and I hope they lean into what we saw tonight. They can run the ball if they want to run the football. And here's the thing about running the ball. A lot of times people focus on the yardage. It's not necessarily about the yardage, it's the attempts. Think about it in terms of Tua's pass attempts and how he was throwing the football a lot, but they were going underneath. That was a supplement to their run game, but they had to respect that short pass, and it was hitting them with timing routes. It was doing all those things, those mesh routes.